I didn't.
There we go.
There we go. Good evening. With this special meeting of the Oyster River Cooperative School District School Board, please come to order.
Oh, I'm quarantined, okay.
And of course, let the minutes reflect that Ann
It's
Lane
7 o'clock
was.
right now. I'm showing a picture, 7:00, okay.
Yeah. And we're here to discuss the manifest protocol and process.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. At the last meeting, the board asked me to investigate the process by which manifests are approved in New Hampshire. And to that end, I asked our attorney, Dennis Ducharme, to investigate that for us. The reason that the chair and the board asked for this is because we had a process where we were preparing checks before the board had seen the manifests. And of course, that's exact opposite to what we should be doing. The board should see the manifests before we cut checks. So in that light, I asked Attorney Ducharme to do some investigating. And what he discovered was that in terms of New Hampshire practice and law, it's really all over the map. There's nothing that goes on consistently across the state. There's no requirements that you could go to and say, okay, that's how we're supposed to do it. There's no case law that guides boards in terms of how to do it properly. So as we looked at school systems across the state and as we reviewed the letter from Attorney Ducharme, we basically are up to our own devices to devise what makes us feel comfortable as a school system. The number one issue being that we want to make sure the board approves the manifests before we cut checks as a school system. Other than that, if you have had the opportunity to read Attorney Ducharme's letter, you can have a manifest committee of 1 or 2, and in our case, 3 people. You can make it a regular part of our board meeting. You can make it a special meeting before our board meeting. There's lots of options before you. And I suggested one in my cover letter where the chair would appoint 2 or 3 members of the body to review manifests in a regularly scheduled open forum format, meaning that it would be my recommendation that rather than continue current practice, which is board members come in when they can and review manifest and sign off, that we schedule a regular time for manifest review by the subcommittee appointed by the chair, and publicize that as if it were a regular public meeting. You can't go wrong by doing that. Clearly the law doesn't require it, but in our case, common sense might be the prevailing factor. And since this is a major concern of the district in the past meetings of the board, be my recommendation that we do have it as a regularly scheduled meeting of the board. And I know that the chair has some guidance that she wishes to offer in that light, and that's as much as I think is necessary to report, Madam Chair. I'd be glad to answer questions of board members.
Thank you. My preference would be to have it schedule it right before our regular meetings so that we're here, open to the public and open to review at 6:30 to 7 and then go on to our regular meeting. We have had discussions on this, and maybe I'll defer to the superintendent. My preference would be to have the regular meeting start at 6:30. 4 people show up, we can open the meeting. Review the manifests, and then it is a regular meeting. It's a public meeting. Superintendent would prefer to have it subcommittee or a committee of the whole at 6:30. Let me just take one more thing. I have, in my past life, voted on manifests. I can see the reason for not doing that because the board really does not have the right to vote no. Once we have delegated the power to the superintendent and his staff to spend money, we're obligated to pay the vendor. If we find that it's misspent, it's between us and the superintendent, and we'll argue that out and somehow. Yes.
I'm not hearing a very clear difference in what Dr. Morse wants and what Madam Chair wants. So I'm having a hard time hearing it, maybe the audience is as well. Dr. Morse said,
It would be 2 meetings. The subcommittee meeting would meet and adjourn, and then we open the next meeting and
so
go forward.
possibly at the same posted meeting on Wednesday evening, one starting at whatever time and then finishing, and the other meeting starting.
Right.
And your thought is,
To just have one meeting.
could you please share with me?
It's not
the-
a huge
what-
difference.
What
but
is the difference?
That one requires a quorum.
Okay.
And the other, if it's a subcommittee, doesn't, but if there are more, then I appoint 2 people and 5 people show up, then we do have a quorum. And
Yeah,
That's my-
the significant difference between Maria and I wouldn't put it in terms of anything other than a professional disagreement. As I would like one meeting to begin 6:30 and end at 7, because at 7 o'clock, the people in our community are expecting us to go on air and run our meeting. If we start at 6:30 for the manifest, what I anticipate will happen is doing due diligence, you'll go through the manifest for that half hour, and at the end of the half hour, you'll be signing off. It's really, for the community, that's a half hour of dead air as we're doing our very specific job of approving the manifest. So my only issue was 6:30 to 7 gives us a place to end the meeting and then begin our regular meeting. And again, it's not substantive, it's just really it's an issue of preference. So in all honesty, I can go either way. I wouldn't want to put you in a position of choosing between me and the chair.
I thought one of the reasons this came up was because we needed to keep things smooth as far as paying bills, we needed to do them every 2 weeks. So how does this change that if we're going to meet once a month?
No, it would happen before every regularly scheduled meeting, so it would be a once every 2 weeks, Ed, except in the summertime, where we
Oh,
would
I'm
have
sorry, you're
to
right.
specifically schedule time to do manifest.
Oh, that's right, it only came up for the summertime, there was once a month. I'm just off schedule here, okay, gotcha.
So there'd be an extra meeting in the summer where this group would meet or a couple extra meetings in the summer.
Yeah, specific, like we're doing tonight, to approve a manifest, a special, what we call a special meeting, or we should get close to this microphone, whether it's a special meeting or just a regularly scheduled meeting for the purpose of manifest.
And if there's a 3-week interval because there's a 5-week month, does that change things in any way?
I don't think so. Part of this conversation, and not to confuse it further, is a conversation that Sue and I were having literally just before this meeting started, related to payroll and our obligations to meet our employees' paychecks. What we would ask annually, and we will ask this at the next meeting, is specific approval, a standing order, if you will, that we have the authority of the board to process payroll and benefits. And so we wouldn't come every 2 weeks with the payroll and benefits manifest. We would just come every 2 weeks with accounts payable at that point. Is that right? So,
The only thing I need to check is there may be a requirement for your signature on a bi-weekly payroll manifest. I'll just check that for the auditors.
So would that payroll manifest be made available to us once a year, just?
exactly what we would
Logistically
do
to
is,
see-
yep, we would aggregate the payroll for the year and ask for your authorization to proceed accordingly, and then, depending on what Sue finds out, every 2 weeks, there would just simply be a payroll manifest that references that standing order. But it does, the most important thing that I think that the chair brought up, and one that I would want to emphasize this evening, is this puts us in a procedure where you are approving before we cut checks. And fundamentally, that really was the heart of the issue. Everything else is sort of surrounding that very fundamental issue that wasn't happening prior to our discussions on this issue.
Megan?
I have a question about how, so regardless if it was a subcommittee or a quorum of the board, the meeting would start at 6:30. That's the recommendation, right?
Yes.
Before, and then would Sue bring the stack of invoices?
Sue would be present at those meetings. She has
Okay.
them this evening, for example, in her carry-on, and they would be ready for your review.
Okay.
And she would be
because
here to answer questions,
Right.
which is most important.
On average, it takes me about an hour. I would say 45 minutes to an hour. When there's been some times where I haven't had enough because my kids are home, but when my kids are at school, I've been, able to go in and I can spend a fair amount of time, depending on how thorough I am. Sometimes I don't have a lot of time, and I guess, I don't know the logistics of how that would work. Would we just take the pile and pass it, or I don't even know how it would work, to be honest with you. I'm thinking kind of how that meeting would be facilitated in reviewing. And I think everyone has their own personal amount that they'd like to see in terms of level of detail, So I just kind of ask, how do you envision the meeting being facilitated when you have a stack? And I don't think Sue wants us to get them all out of order either. It becomes kind of a pain in the neck. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste people's resources. It costs the district time and money. When, if we're going to be just sitting, flipping through papers and we're paying for it to be videotaped and broadcast, I'm respectful of that. I don't want to waste our money. I'm also very respectful of the transparency and having all, as much out there as possible for the viewing public to see. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. And I'm also a little bit nervous about what would happen, Jim, if we were having a subcommittee meeting and then board members started coming in for the meeting at 7. Is that going to be considered a quorum? I don't understand that. Like, how does that
Right.
work?
That's my question as well.
Because it's just.
And I've been told by several people that this is micromanaging, looking at the manifests. This is the only way that I'm learning
Yeah.
what's going on in the school system and hopefully preparing me for the next budget. And I don't know how to prepare myself for the next budget if I'm as clueless as I feel I am.
Yeah, I do
No.
not consider this micromanagement. This is really the board's role. Yes.
I empathize with Megan's concern. In the last year, I've reviewed the manifest pretty regularly, and Sue will attest to it's pretty straightforward when the manifest is a reasonable size and when then it becomes a less than reasonable size. Toward the end of the year, you can speak to that. I think we know in advance when we will expect the manifest to be a rather bulky document and when it's a reasonably sized document. And perhaps we plan accordingly, that in April or June, I can't remember exactly.
No, it's usually July and August.
July and August, it's larger, and perhaps we simply
start at
schedule
4.
ourselves a little more time to go through it based on having that knowledge in advance. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Could I just ask a question? If you take the payroll out of the if we do the 1-year authorization, how much would that reduce? What, that much? Okay.
Nothing.
We don't look at it.
But I don't think it would be hard for you to put it into 3 folders. So I give
And
you
then-
folder 1, folder 2.
I think that the management of it
So,
is something that
that's
we'll learn
doable.
together. I mean, we don't have those answers tonight. As soon as you give us the guidance on how you want to do it, then we'll work through it. And it might be a little bit awkward and clumsy at first until we get our feet, under us in terms of this process, because it's going to be new to all of us. And we'll work through it.
Yeah. Like,
I guess the last concern I raised was about the quorum issue. You know, if we're in subcommittee and then, you know, board members start, I guess what we could do is, board members can't enter the room until the committee meeting is dismissed.
I don't think so. I mean, people walk in on subcommittee meetings, if they don't want to be involved in the manifest, they just recuse themselves and let the people who started the process go.
But what
I would
if
say.
they want to? That's, I mean, as I say, it's a learning experience. Why wouldn't everybody want to?
Well,
Is there-
I share Megan's concern, because looking at the manifest, I think you know, it's really, really helpful to say, well, what's this about? You know, so there can be potentially a lot of talk about a lot of different items on the manifest, you know, so it really does open up a whole new protocol for how to go through the manifests and understand them and look at it. And I agree with you, it's a great learning experience, but it could be extremely time-consuming if we really did it properly.
And I'm not quite sure how we get around the treasurer pays the bills on orders of the,
That could be that's a standing order as well. You can do that as a standing order.
would we still sign at the regular meeting?
We need your signatures
I know.
of those who review it. Now, if we go with your idea, Maria, that it's a quorum, we would have to have 4 signatures. If we do a subcommittee, then you could say it's, you know, 2 or 3 signatures.
So if I have a subcommittee of 3, obviously it should then be rotated, so you guys don't get to be there. And that would upset you, right?
A year or so ago, when I signed the oath in the Madray parking lot with Mr. Leslie, the budget is my responsibility. I have a hard time handing that off to somebody else. Not that I don't respect and trust everyone on this board, I do, but that's not who I signed off to. I signed off to the communities of Durham, Lee, and Madbury to represent them, and this is the most important function that we have. So I will go with whatever the majority of the board wants to do. I will not necessarily be comfortable with it.
Well, I don't like signing things I haven't looked at, so.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, anybody can look at the manifest. You know, you don't have to be on the school board.
Correct.
So theoretically, you know, one could still look at the manifest. That's not, whatever we do isn't going to preclude anybody from doing that. But I think Ann's point, I agree. I mean, there's really 3 roles of a school board. You know, legislate policy, you know, the fiscal ultimate accountability, and the hiring and management of a superintendent. And as someone, you know, who, I think the learning one gets by looking at the manifest is going to allow us to be much better and effective in the budget process. I agree completely. I knew very little, you know, about a lot of the operations of the district, and you learn a lot about, you know, the cycle of business in a district as coming from the, you know, corporate private sector. It's very different, and you really gain an appreciation, and you can be much more effective, I think, as a board member. So I don't, you know, I will continue, I will always, you know, I want to look at the manifest. If I'm not on the subcommittee or whatever, I would probably still look at it on my own free time. But just to keep myself informed so I can be as best as I can be in terms of my deliberations.
Could you tell me one more time what the difference between the 2 plans are, just so I got that? Because I see what Maria is saying is basically only having 1 extra person here a half hour early.
So before I say what we disagree on, let's just summarize what we agree on. We
Okay.
agree that the manifest should be approved by the board, whether it's the full board through quorum or subcommittee, before checks are cut. We agree, Maria and I agree, that meeting should be a publicly noticed meeting, so that anybody in the public who wants to look at the manifest, can look at them if they wish to. They can do that outside that meeting, or if they want to watch you guys do the manifest, they can do that. The only place that we have really just a minor agreement is, but it's substantive, I guess, is whether it's a subcommittee or whether it's a special meeting of the board to address manifests, which would require a quorum. And I think, Ed, you captured that very nicely. That means the difference of one member being present. So that's why I don't necessarily see it as,
One
a
more
huge.
than the hardcore.
Right. So, in terms of facilitating this discussion, I would defer to Maria's recommendation, largely because it resolves the issue of board members feeling like they're being left out of the process.
Right.
And we don't want that
Coming in.
any more than we want to have these meetings held the way they currently are held. So that would be what, I would support the chair's recommendation this evening.
Wow. Thank you.
So,
Could I just have a question?
Tom?
So would you have would you have a subcommittee of 4 people? And that anyone else who would want to attend that could attend? So presumably all 7 could be there if they chose, but we have 4 that would commit to being there? Is that?
We have not a subcommittee anymore, if
It's
we
a-
go with that.
Mhm.
it's a
We-
meeting of the board, of those present.
We're asking you to please commit for 3 months to be here at 6:30.
Mhm. And then someone else could, if they chose to, could
Right,
also.
anybody, then the whole board can be here if they want to.
Okay.
But just to make sure that I can open the meeting,
Mhm.
I'm asking.
Okay, that's just one more question. Then, if somebody felt they needed more, as Megan said, needed more time to look at the manifest, they could do that outside this meeting, or would there be no
Well,
chance?
they wouldn't be able to take any action outside this meeting, so an individual board member looking at the manifest has no power any more than an individual citizen looking at them.
But-
So I don't see that as interfering with a public session.
Okay, so,
Because
but I guess my point is, if somebody felt they needed more time to look at them, that time would be, they could just do that on their own time.
I believe that to be the case. Because if you look at the letter from our attorney,
Which
what we're
would not
creating is.
excuse you
Yeah,
from being here at 6:30.
correct.
Yeah.
And you couldn't sign off during that time
Yeah,
period.
but you could look. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you could prepare yourself too, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you're coming here and you really gotta feel like you need more time to look over things, you've got that extra time to do it.
When, I don't understand. So if I come at 6:30, we have 4 folders, we're going through it, asking questions. It's 7 o'clock, we're not done. We still have.
No, what I'm saying is if you go in at 10 o'clock and look them over, you might feel that you're done, but you still need to be here till.
So, okay, so we're not, I guess, I'm being kind of, so it's still the expectation, I mean, I would still, to make sure, because I don't know if I'll have enough time in that half-hour allotment, so to make sure, in my own free time, I can go in and look at the manifest. Sort of like what I've been doing now already.
Right.
Except now you're signing, and this time, when you do it from this point forward, you wouldn't sign there. You'd wait for the full group to come
Right.
together.
Okay.
And you cannot tell yourself, oh, I can wait
No.
until 7.
If I had
because-
questions, I should refrain?
No, you can ask clarifying questions of Sue, just like anybody from the community could if they
Okay.
looked at them. We're going to have Sue available to answer questions of the body, but Sue's also available to answer questions of citizenry.
Okay, then I guess, I wonder if we don't need to start, we could start at 6:45 then, because the bulk of the work is still going to probably be done.
I would
You don't
think
think
So
staying
I
at
want my half hour,
You want your half hour?
please.
All right. That half hour counts towards the total meeting time. I know you have the world record now for the short meeting. So this is you're making it harder on yourself. That's okay. All right.
Yeah, well, just philosophically, I have a hard time separating my role as a citizen and my role as a school board member. I feel that anything I do involving the school, I do as a member of the board. So So the going in as a citizen to look at manifests, you know, cleverer minds than mine have to figure that one out.
I think the
So,
go ahead, Tom.
I just wonder whether there's a motion on the floor, or whether we should make
No.
a motion.
Yeah.
And is the motion that we have before a meeting at 6:30 before each scheduled board meeting for a review of the manifest and a vote on the manifests? Is that?
That would make it 2 meetings,
Yep.
what you were suggesting.
Yeah. Meeting before each scheduled, a manifest meeting before each scheduled regular board meeting.
Yeah.
No,
No? You suggesting something different? That's what I thought you said.
I thought our last was that we'd have a board meeting where the first half hour is dedicated to manifests,
Oh, okay.
And what
Yeah.
time would the meeting start?
6:30.
6:30.
So we would start the meeting at 6:30. From 6:30 to 7 o'clock, it's strictly manifest.
Manifest.
We don't start the business meeting until 7 o'clock, even if we finish the manifest at 6:45.
And that still gives the public,
And,
doesn't change the public's expectation.
and the first half hour doesn't need to be on camera, but maybe it should,
Uh,
just to make sure.
If you want.
Megan,
We have to, our agenda is a regulation policy, correct, now? So we would have to amend that to
Mhm.
reflect this.
yes,
I just want to point that out so we don't forget.
Yeah, we talked about it today.
Yeah, okay.
Ed,
And you plan to appoint 4, there'll be a, I mean, how you're gonna get you want a quorum here of 4, but I guess if the meeting starts at 6:30, we're all gonna show up, even though you only really need 4 people?
I wouldn't appoint, I would ask,
You said something about rotating.
yeah, I would ask
Okay, okay.
if you wouldn't mind being here at 6:30. If you say so, I'll believe your
Yeah.
word.
Okay.
Anne, would you,
Yes, yes, Madam Chair.
Megan, would,
Sure.
and Ed will take, said yes for the first 3 months?
Yep.
Simple, and I'll be here.
Okay.
And we don't have manifests tonight?
We do not, because we didn't have a process. But we will have manifest at 6:30 on September 5th, ready for board review.
Okay,
I just want to enter concern. In the case of an emergency, when you need a check from a how would we do that?
what emergency?
Well, I can tell you that today, I had a situation where a food service director needed cash for the cash drawers, didn't realize they didn't have any, so she said, what do I do? So she needs a check to go to the bank and get ones and quarters and dimes to fill her cash registers for school tomorrow. So this is a situation where I'm like.
What did you do?
I said, I'll let you know tomorrow.
Oh.
Maybe we need a caveat from the board, giving the superintendent authority in emergency situations. I mean, those situations are unpredictable.
Right.
And then you can slap my hand afterwards and say, good job.
And that's not an outlay, it's simply a repositioning.
Well, yeah, but it's
That-
issuing a check, so.
It doesn't change the balance sheet.
Should that happen, I would report to you immediately that I did that. But I don't see that happening very often.
Occasionally, a conference, we might miss the deadline if we don't get it in the mail tomorrow. That's another one that comes up occasionally.
Credit card.
Yep.
Registrations today, it's gonna fill, if I don't get a check to them, I'll miss out.
And you can't pay them by credit card?
Sometimes, I don't like to, but.
And we don't have a cash?
No, we don't keep any petty cash available
Well, we do like $50.
in our office. Oh, I stand
Well,
corrected. I didn't know that.
Haven't found the guy.
All of the schools do. It just prevents us from reimbursing people for $3.
Gotcha. I think in those emergency situations, the board would be forgiving and let me take care of those, I hope. But I would be looking to use, a vehicle that we could still use the process like a credit card in most cases, so we can honor the process we have in place.
Megan?
I don't know. I'm worried about that situation. I mean, I read the state statute, it's pretty clear. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is one of those situations where it's obviously, you don't want, the operations of the district has to function. You have to,
Right.
you have to allow the lunchroom to function the first day of school but on the other hand, it's, I'm sorry, it's like a deadline for a conference, and that's a planning issue. And if you wait till last minute, you should know, I guess it's like, so sorry, you can't go. I guess that's one way I look at it. I mean, that's sort of, because in most situations in my life, you have to plan, and it's going to force more planning, I suppose. So I don't know. If there is an emergency, Maria has to call an emergency meeting. I just want to make sure we're following the law. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be, I don't know what else to say. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear.
I would not approve a conference as an
Yeah,
emergency.
okay.
But I would, in terms of this lunchroom situation, consider that something that was
Okay.
unanticipated.
Perhaps an easy defining benchmark is, does it affect kids? If it's affecting us delivering education to kids, I think it's pretty black and white.
Yeah. I think the bottom line issue is that there are always going to be the unpredictable, and in truth, there's where you have to extend the trust of the board to the superintendent to do their job. The law isn't anticipating every contingency, but it's a very specific guideline and rule that we have to follow. But there are going to be times when there is a situation that doesn't fit nicely into that bucket, and hopefully that you'll give me the discretion to deal with that.
Well, this summer, there was an issue with, or in the spring, going, I believe, to Russia, and where visas had to be reissued, and there was an enormous cost associated with the reissuing of that, and I think it fell between board meetings, and so this trip that had been planned for some time probably wouldn't have happened unless there was the ability to step in, and so, these things do happen, and
I think that if we're 99.9% compliant, we're probably, well, now based on this letter that we got from our attorney, 99.9% compliant, more than most school systems in New Hampshire. So I think that the process we've outlined tonight will largely meet our needs, and then when those exceptions happen, we'll deal with them. But I will tell you that Sue and I will be very careful about any kind of exception.
Megan?
I just came up with an idea so that we can plan for exceptions. I mean, could we have a fund that we approve established? I don't know if we can even project how much you would need in that fund, but so that the board has blessed that to be used solely for that purpose, just so that we are following the letter of the law. That's a, I feel like, I think, I agree with everything. I agree with everything. But I don't want us to be sued because of something that someone is tracking to find. Because you could
Yeah.
easily do that. Because the law is not perfect.
Well, let us add that to our list of things to investigate
Okay.
to see if we can establish
So
such an
if-
account with your authority.
Yeah, I have total faith that you and Sue will, obviously handle that situation appropriately, but I just want to protect our district.
Absolutely.
we could have a school board fund.
I'm just wondering in that case whether the board could delegate the chair to authorize emergency funds so that there is the board,
We have the
I mean,
double, yeah,
or
that's a
if
great
the
idea.
chair's not available, the vice chair, so there'd be somebody that would be available instantly to,
You need, but the law stipulates you could do two people, so you would need two people, according to the law.
Well, let us play with that between now and the next meeting, because, we have the process. Tom, can I reread your motion into the record? This is what I heard you say,
Okay.
paraphrased. Motion to start our meetings at 6:30, with the first 30 minutes reserved for manifest review. Is that,
Or is that manifest approval?
Review
No.
and approval.
Yeah, then we're in regular meetings, so we can
Mhm.
approve.
does that meet, Tom, does that characterize it well?
Sounds-
So is there a second? Ian? Okay, Madam Chair. we'll have a-
Any further discussion? This is very complicated.
It is complicated because it's never been done before.
I'd like to thank you both for taking this on with the amount of sincerity that you have.
You're more than
Really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair pushed me into a corner.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you. And
Ed, do we have a
motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Ed, Megan, and on the unanimous end, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.